Good evening. It's good to see you tonight. Thank you for choosing to be here. So when I was younger, I guess, I remember very early, in about 5 years old, I started going to camp. I started going to Bible camp with my dad and mom, and I would actually stay. Maybe even it was younger than that. I would stay in their cabin. Dad was the head counselor or like the head director, and so I would stay in their cabin. And we would do that, and very young we'd do that. And so at the end of the week was my favorite part. I wasn't part of everything else yet because I wasn't old enough. But at the end of the week, they had something I liked every year: a water balloon fight. A water balloon fight. It was so much fun. It was like the senior campers. It was a time where it was down at Gulf Coast Bible Camp where we actually just went with some of our teenagers. It was before they split up into different age groups. It was everybody was there, and they would take the older campers and they would have a water balloon fight. It was actually not just a water balloon fight because somebody decided to bring shaving cream, and so it became a shaving cream and water balloon fight, and it was intense. Dad had a little red Nissan truck, and he would actually have cans of like big trash cans, like those 55-gallon trash cans, and they would fill that with water balloons, and he would take that out there in the back of his truck and use that as like his base, and he wasn't going to lose, and so and so he would do that. And I remember being very young, but enjoying that so much. I liked hitting people with water balloons. Maybe you like something like that. I remember one of the first things I ever collected was not little cars or baseball cards or anything. It was water guns. I enjoyed water fights for some reason. With our teenagers, it's developed into we do something called a flour bomb war every summer. We take these Kleenexes and you put flour like you cook with, and then you wrap it up in that Kleenex with a rubber band, and then you throw it at each other. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of like a paintball. But see, you get these water balloons, you fill them up. It takes a lot of time, and then you get to throw them at people. It's a fight, and see who can win. And even if you get hit, you still keep going, until you don't have any more water balloons left. I remember that from an early age, and know these have air in them, not water, so we're okay. I remember from an early age doing that. But see, the reality is for us is that we are in a fight. We're in a fight, and as Ephesians says, it's not against each other. It says, "For our struggle is not against the flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." There's a very real spiritual war going on, and sometimes we forget. Sometimes we want to walk around with our heads down, completely unaware about this battle that we're engaged in. But this battle is for life or death. The reality is the fight is going on whether we are engaged in it or not. We are either going to fight for the abundant life that God has offered us, or we're fighting for a fake life that the world offers us. In Ephesians chapter 6, in verses 10 through 18, we really read of verses 10 through 18. We read of something that we like to look at more in a VBS way or downtown Bible way, and we see this spiritual armor here. And I want to look at this tonight for a few moments, and because I really feel like it's more than just this fake armor that we put on. I think of David, and David was offered armor by Saul before he went and fought Goliath. You remember that? And what was wrong with that armor? It didn't fit, right? It didn't fit. Well, a lot of times man's armor, the armor we want to come up with, it doesn't fit. But God's armor was made specifically for us for a purpose. So let's look at this together. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of His might. Put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. You notice here that Paul does not call Christians to enter this spiritual warfare. He basically, he says it's a fact. It's happening right now. You're in this spiritual battle, and if you're ignorant to that or ignore that, you probably aren't winning that war. Verse 13, therefore take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand firm. Paul says we put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to. Without the strength of God, there's not much fighting to be done. It's impossible to stand against these attacks from the enemy without the strength of God. Verse 14, stand therefore, having fastened on the belt of truth, having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and as shoes for your feet, having put on readiness given by the gospel of peace. In all circumstances take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all flaming darts of the evil one, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. Praying at all times in the Spirit with all prayer and supplication, to that end keep alert with all perseverance, making supplication for the saints. God is our strength. And He has equipped us with this armor to stand against the devil's attacks. You must make a choice to either fight for the real life that God offers us or not fight. And we're settled for what the world has that's pretty fake. John 10:10 puts it this way, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I've come that they may have life and have it to the full. He's saying there's this enemy out there, and he's coming for your throat. He hates you. He wants to kill you. He wants to destroy you. He wants to steal from you. An important thing to understand is this, that we're not fighting to have our sins forgiven. That's a free gift from God. That was done at the cross. We're also not fighting to get God to love you or love you more. He loves you. He's crazy about you. We're fighting to keep the faith. Hebrews 10:39, that Case just read for us, says this, but we do not belong to those who shrink back and are destroyed, but to those who have faith and are saved. The Hebrews passage here shows us that we're made to be a fighter. The fight is tough, but so are you. We don't shrink back because that's not who we are. Tonight, two things that I want us to think about when fighting. The first one is very short, is I can fight. I can fight. It's important that you know that you can fight. When I was young, I remember being taught, probably like you were, that, hey, there's no fighting. Except then when Dad decided that me and Josh should fight it tonight. All right, so when I was, they're not here, or Dad's not here, so I can tell on him. He's in Ukraine. So when we were young, it would get late at night, and we'd be about to go to bed, and Josh and I would be picking each other, and Dad'd say, okay, why don't y'all wrestle? And we'd have wrestle night, and that was very fun for me. It was not fun when it was like up in the air, like you were standing on your feet, because Josh was smaller and faster than me. I was slow. I still am slow. But if I got him on the ground, I knew I was going to win. If I got him on the ground, I knew I was going to win. And I learned that I could fight, and so can we. We can fight Satan. It's not easy. It's never meant to be easy, though. But you're made to be a fighter. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 12 says, fight the good fight of faith. You see, salvation, that's a free gift. Faith is what we fight for. We fight the good fight of faith. The salvation, we don't do anything to earn that. Jesus has already done that at the cross, and thank God for that. You know, that is an incredible gift to us. But here's the idea that faith is what we fight for. We fight every day through those doubts, through those fears, through what Satan puts in front of us to keep the faith. And that leads us to the second point, that I can take a punch. I can take a punch. The best fighters are not those who never get hit, but the ones who get back up once they do get hit. You know, pain is an invitation to either back down or to keep fighting. Your pain can be an excuse to give up or fuel to fight. You were made to take a few punches. You're tougher than you realize. And the fight is real. It really is. And once we get that salvation, that free gift, the fight's for the rest of our lives. 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7, Paul at the end of his life, he says this, I have fought the good fight. And this is a great way to end your life. If you're going out, this is the way to go out here. He says, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the course. I have kept the faith. The fight is real. Period. The fight is real. December 27th is Lindsay's dad's birthday. At about 5 o'clock in the morning, I learned that we were going to have a baby. Pretty awesome. The rush of emotions was unreal. Excitement, joy, scared to death. What am I going to do with a baby? Lindsay and I were so excited, but from the get-go, it'd been a hard time for her, being sick constantly. I cannot tell you. You could count on maybe two hands the number of times in the last 30 weeks that Lindsay hasn't been sick in a day. Maybe. It's been hard. And things weren't great, but they've gotten better, I thought, until a couple weeks ago. When we were at camp, and I got a call that if we didn't, and this call blew me away, that if we didn't take drastic steps, Mallory was going to enter this world that week. And that was real. That things had come to that point. That was not Jordan's plan. Jordan's plan was September 1st. That was September 1st, and we were going to be there, and everything's going to be great. Lindsay's going to work up to September 1st. We're going to be great until then, and then the September 1st came that day, and then we'll be ready for this baby. So we get this call, and Lindsay says, hey, some measurements are off, and if we don't do something, the doctor says if I don't go on bed rest immediately, then we're going to meet Mallory very soon. And so, obviously, that meant 3 months, at most, of bed rest. That meant her not leaving home for those 3 months. That meant her not going to work for those 3 months. That meant her not getting her own food and all these things. And all these things rushing into my mind, not knowing what. And here I am in Lucedale, Mississippi, about to teach a Bible class and get this phone call. It rocked my world. I never saw it coming. Now, I thought Mallory and Lindsay were going to be completely fine. I thought we had plenty of time to get ready for this new addition to our family. It brought all kinds of questions and doubts. These lots of questions, but really lots of worries to fight with. You see, in a flash, the fight changed. And the fight changes constantly, doesn't it? It can change with a phone call, like it did for me. A grade, for you guys, a relationship, a temptation, decisions you make, decisions somebody else makes for you. A lot of things change in the fight. So here's the thing that Paul said. He fought. It doesn't say he won. It says he finished. If you don't fight, you lose. You got to keep fighting. If you don't fight, you lose. Remember, it didn't say he won. It said he did what? Finished. James Corbett has a great quote that I think is so phenomenal for this and fits this so perfectly. It says, I know it's maybe hard to read, but it says, fight one more round. When your feet are so tired that you have to shuffle back to the center of the ring, fight one more round. When your arms are so tired that you can hardly lift your hands to come on guard, fight one more round. When your nose is bleeding, your eyes are black, and you're so tired you wish your opponent would crack you one on the jaw and put you to sleep, fight one more round. Remembering that the man who always fights one more round is never whipped. I want to take this time to take this a little step further. Make this real for us, I think. When you just don't think you can't help but gossip again, fight one more round. When you have an opportunity to put others down so you can get ahead, fight one more round. When you're tempted to cheat the boss at work, fight one more round. When your debt keeps mounting and you don't know what to do, fight one more round. When it's easier to stay in bed than get up and go to worship, fight one more round. When you get so angry you feel like you have to cuss to get your point across, fight one more round. When you're about to let your pride get in the way of something good happening for someone else, fight one more round. When laziness starts becoming second nature, fight one more round. When that guy or girl wants you to do stuff you know goes against God's plan for your purity, fight one more round. When that drink is staring you in the face and everyone else is doing it, fight one more round. When you're struggling whether to go back to the pornography or not, fight one more round. When you feel like you are never going to fit in or find friends, fight one more round. When the anxiety, depression, or loneliness sets in, fight one more round. When apathy sets in, fight one more round. When you'd rather do it your way than God's way, fight one more round. When you don't know how you're going to make it through your darkness, the darkness that only you know about, no one else does, fight one more round. When you feel like giving up on the church, His people, and His plan, fight one more round. And when you get a phone call, and it changes everything, it rocks your world, fight one more round. Knowing, remembering that the man or woman who always fights one more round will never be whipped by the devil. You see, we got to keep fighting. And here's the great part. You remember this fight that happened, I guess, a few months ago? Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor. You remember that fight? It was one of the biggest fights of all time, biggest pay-per-views of all time, and And millions and millions, about 50 million people watched this fight, and there was so much money bet on this fight, including Floyd Mayweather went and tried to put a bet on himself. Do you read about that? It's pretty incredible. He went and took $400,000 of his own money. He has a lot of money, but $400,000 would be a lot to anybody, I would assume. He goes and tries to put that on himself. And they won't let him. So he tries, and I don't know, but I think he went and got a friend to go put that money on him for him. Ultimately, he does win that fight. He was confident in himself. But here's the thing. We're not that confident in ourselves a lot of times. And the good thing is, we don't have to be. Because we can be confident in our God. Paul continues in that 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 8 there. He says, "Henceforth there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give to me on that day. But not to me only, but to all who love his appearing." There's something spectacular at the end of the fight. We keep fighting one more round, and we get an eternity in heaven with Jesus, with God, with His Spirit, with all those who love His appearing. We're in a fight. We must fight, and it's worth the fight. Lindsay is in a fight. We're in a fight together. And it's a struggle of faith because it's a struggle of the unknown. You see, we could go to the doctor, or we go every Monday, and we could find out that we're going to have a baby this week. The prayer is, and the doctor's plan, hopefully, is to get us to 34 weeks. That's 1 month from now. But it's the battle of the unknown. But the great thing is, it's worth the fight. At the end, I get to hold a beautiful baby girl. And I can't wait. We're in a fight. We must fight. It's worth the fight. Fight one more round. Hebrews 10:39 again. But we do not belong to those who shrink back, who cower, and are destroyed, but to those who have faith and are saved. If you need help to start fighting tonight, because you got a choice. You can fight or lose. If you don't fight, you lose. So if you want to start that fight, we can help you do that tonight. Or if you need to be picked up off the mat, fight one more round, we can help you do that as well. Whatever your need, come now as together we stand and sing.